It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show brings you famous celebrities and amazing people from all over the world. Listen online at themikewagnershow.com and on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And watch the interview on YouTube. So sit back and relax and enjoy the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking for a professional website without break your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support at sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google, Apple, as well, too, and Google Play. You take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device and subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. We're back once again on the other side of the pond with author Myron Edwards. He's the author of Mistress of the Rock and Scylla the Revenge. We'll talk about his second book. He's worked in the travel industry for over 30 years, freelance for BBC, radio, and TV, and he also wrote for the Two Ronnies, Week Endings, and the News Headlines. And, of course, we'll talk about something significant happened 50 years ago involving the BBC. We talked about that. And he also did some full-time copywriting, but he's very passionate about his second book. We promised, if you watch the last interview, we talked mainly about the first book, Mistress of the Rock, and how it got started. But this is a second one where it just gets a little more in-depth and intense. And he's also got another project coming up. But without further ado, live from the other side of the pond in Cyprus and Greece, ladies and gentlemen, Myron Edwards. Myron, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us again.
How are you, Mike? I'm well, and thank you for the opportunity again. How are you?
I'm doing great. So you have a couple of books out, author Mistress of the Rock and Scylla the Revenge. We talked about Mistress of the Rock and how it all got started with Richard and Julie being on a trip in Cyprus. He's also been through the Gulf War and talking about Iran and having these images of being blown and everything, but then also having like his first love and everything. But then you have Scylla that's coming back as well too. And before we get into Scylla the book, once again, just tell us a little bit again how you got started and how you got started briefly with Mistress of the Rock and Scylla the Revenge.
Okay, well, the Mistress of the Rock started when I first came to Cyprus. Really, the first time when my wife and I came over, and we visited Petra to Romeo, and the Mistress story evolved from there. Because I saw something that day that was quite extraordinary, and it stayed with me, and I felt it might be something that could be made into a story. And as you know, I did it as a book for my wife for Christmas, and she then said, it's a good idea, why don't you try and get it published? So we did. We got it published by a Cypriot publisher, but then we had all the troubles that there were in Cyprus, and consequently it faded away. We did have an offer of a movie, because I do believe that it will make a very good movie. Sorry, that's my boy in the background. And
he can come on the show, by the way.
You met Joey last time, Mike, you remember? Yeah. So
what's that?
Yeah. So basically what the scenario was that we tried to make the movie. Unfortunately, the Cypriot crisis caught up, and it made it very difficult then for the movie to be made. So and in many ways that was the catalyst for why the second book came about, because having a book and not doing anything with it, sitting on a shelf but literally with nothing to look forward to, in other words. I just was in a bit of a malaise. You get into they say a thing called writer's block. You've probably heard of it. It's mainly when a writer just runs out of ideas and can't think of anything. Well, to a certain extent, that's what I did with Mistress of the Rock, because I only thought it would ever make one book. However, I did, by chance, by consequence, I don't know how you put it, I found something quite unusual that was happening in the area around Ayia Napa, and it's called the Friendly Monster. Believe it or not, and it's a sea monster. It was on Fact or Fake, the American program. They went and did an investigation on there. So there was some truth to this particular story, and in many ways it kicked off in me the second idea about where can I take the story now. And that really brought about the idea of that Scylla or Scylla, whichever way you want to pronounce it, to the point that I started to write ideas down, and those ideas started to come together. And as they started to come together, I started to realise that, hang on, there's a potential here for a second book. And that really was the start of it. The catalyst of all of it was the sheer fact that I was doing nothing, and then suddenly this bit of inspiration came along, and it took off. And I started to do the second book. Now, bearing in mind, I'd still got my American publisher, who had done Mistress of the Rock Hill Publishing. And I said to him, look, James, I've got a second book. And he said, well, let me see the manuscript. And I sent it to him. And he said, yes, we'll publish this as well. So that's really how it began. But I'll let you carry on for a moment, because I ramble too much.
No. You're good. You're good. In fact, I encourage people to talk all the time. In fact, although it's a Mike Wagner show, the spotlight's on you. So just go ahead and keep on going. I love what you hear. And there was one question that I did have in mind as well, too. And how many months was it, or years, like, say, between the first and second book? You talk about a writer's block. You were sitting on the shelf, and all of a sudden it's like it clicked in. So how long was it during the time between the first and the second book?
Okay. Well, the first book would be about 2017. So between 2017 and 2018, there was 6 months or there around that time, and that's when I did the second book. So the second book would be about 2018, I would say, from that point of view. Go on.
No, you keep on going here. So keep on going.
So in essence, what this second book is all about is that what I've done is I've taken the idea of Aphrodite as the goddess of love, but I've taken her from a different perspective. Now, if you read about her in Greek mythology, you'll see that she isn't all sweetness and light. In fact, she's quite a vindictive little bitch at times. And on that sort of scenario, she is extremely jealous. Well, in the first book, she has a reason to be jealous, and that comes across. And the reason that she is now the way that she is in the second book, she simply wants revenge. She's been scorned, and from that point of view, she wants her own back, and she doesn't care how she gets it. And she is very malicious and extremely, should we say nasty, I think is a good word. She's a nasty bitch in this particular book, really.
And of course, you talk about Aphrodite as well, too. Was she just after Richard Cole throughout the times, or was she after just many men for no reason?
No, she's after Richard Cole for a reason that comes out in the third book, because she believes that Richard Cole isn't somebody that he isn't the person that she thinks he is. This is what the third book is all about, and in many ways, let's cut back. Can you cut back a bit? Because in the second book, it's where she realizes that Richard Cole is somebody different than what she thinks he is. He isn't. He's more than what she believes him to be. And that revelation actually comes out at the final sort of, shall we say, I don't know, what would I put it? The final episode, let's put it that way. Okay, that particular, the answer to the question is delivered in the final chapter, and in many ways that ties everything all together, and why she is so obsessed with Richard the way that she is, because she now knows that there's something more to him than what she imagines at the first, or what she surmises at first. Let's put it that way. But he is completely oblivious to this. He doesn't understand anything about it, and only in his own way does he now feel that he has an obligation to try and stop her, because she's wreaking havoc right across the entire coast of Cyprus, and people are disappearing, and they don't know what the reasons are. And the background against this is the political situation that they had in Cyprus in around that particular time when the book was set, was that we went in a terrible financial position. Greece had already gone into sort of financial crisis. Cyprus, who thought they would avoid it, followed shortly after. So as a consequence to that, there was this issue of what is going to happen to Cyprus, because the banks were closing, people were foreclosing on everything, and there was a real malaise about the whole place. So people were losing money, businesses were going down, and all this. So I've set that against the background of the book as well, to give some idea of what the financial position was like in Cyprus at the time, if you could relate that to the actual story.
And also, too, they also had that business as well, too, where you attract the tourists and, get them into the rock. You can hang them by a rope and everything else. And how much of it got affected. So you read about it, it's just like, make you wonder, is it going to survive? Is it going to be short term, or is it going to fall apart? That's a part I read about, too. Right.
Well, the island itself, the funny thing is, when you read the book, you think it's actually happened. Okay, I think this is the particular, shall we say, significance of the story itself. It's almost as if you're reading it and you can see it. You can see that this is actually happening. In the second scenario, it's very much the same. There is a lot of politics involved in the second one, because it's only emphasizing the fact that the situation as it was in the time when the book was set was particularly precarious for everybody. It was precarious from the point of view of people were losing their lives. They were committing suicide because they had no financial backing. They lost all their money. The banks took all the money, or consequently, the banks actually folded themselves. So there was a turmoil within that particular situation. Now, if you relate that to the story as well, that actually then starts to make some sense. And there is an element of what is important is it the fact that we keep losing tourists, or these tourists keep disappearing, or is it the fact that we are losing our country, our financial stability? What is more important? And that, in some ways, is what comes over in the book. Is this? There's like a quote in the book where it says they close all the beaches, for example. Now, the guy turns around and he says, what is this, Amity? They did in Jaws, the same situation. They closed the beaches. Well, it's a similar sort of scenario. If you're finding that you have people that are disappearing and you can't get an answer for why they're disappearing, you have to go to the logical conclusion that something or someone is making them disappear. And that is what the essence of the story is about. And the person who is behind all of this is Aphrodite.
And of course, we'll talk about the political situation in just a minute. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention The Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, and Apple. Take The Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device and subscribe to The Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. We're here with author Myron Edwards of Mistress of the Rock and Scylla the Revenge, which is out on Amazon right now and also on Rock Hill Publishing out of New York City. He's worked in the travel industry for over 30 years, freelance for BBC, radio, and TV. And, of course, we talked about the political situation in Cyprus and Greece and tied into the story as well, too. I also read in there as well, too, that they went through a frustrating levels of trying to get to the answers with layers and layers of the politicians, the front office, and corporate and bureaucrats and everything else, like the governor and police officers, what have you. So I guess my question is that with all the corruption of things going on in the book as well too, is this tied to what was happening exactly in the Cyprus area, or has it been like, say, with has it gotten better like right now? Has it gotten worse, or has it just stayed the same or not as rampant?
Well, You have in Cyprus what for the past almost 40 years now, the divide. Cyprus is a divided island between the Turkish side of the north, in the north, and the south. So there is this constant provocation, if you like, in terms of no one can settle, no one can agree to unify, and they've tried everything and anything to actually unify the island. That is the backdrop behind what is happening in the political side of Cyprus. If they can resolve the Cypriot position, then, or the Cypriot problem as they call it, then maybe things will change. There is at the moment an ongoing problem with the gas and the oil. At the moment, they are arguing over who has dominion over the gas and the oil. Now, in the book, the situation doesn't necessarily follow that particular scenario, because I've tried to keep the real politics out of it. But I have put in my own sort of politique, which is that there are people that find that the situation with the tourists, they need to understand that, as far as they're concerned, the tourists are their lifeblood, but if you close the beaches and everything else like that, tourists won't come. So as a consequence to that, they need to find what is the answer. So level heads play the part in some cases, and in the meetings that they have, they decide that they will close the beaches for a small period of time, just a morning time, because they find bodies and things like that. I won't go into, because I don't want to spoil the story. But and in that period of time, they have a situation where they find themselves. What do we do now? How do we solve this position? How do we solve the solution? We don't know who is causing this. Okay, and as a consequence to that in many ways is the real dilemma. The only one who is able to try and fix it is Richard, because Richard is the one who has been brought across by Aphrodite, because she's threatened him to say, if you don't come, I will continue doing what I'm doing. And this is where this whole essence of the goddess and her sort of personality changes completely. If you read in the mythology of the Greek mythology, you'll find that she has this sort of trait, not just as in one or two situations, but she's a very jealous person, and always has to have her own way. And that is, in many ways, is what she does in the book as well.
And of course, too, involving Richard as well, too, having like Aphrodite being a lover and saving the Iraqi woman who ended up getting bloody, and of course his wife Julie, and of course makes you wonder throughout the book who was his first true love. Makes you wonder about that.
Yeah, and I think that in many ways will come over in book 2, because in many ways the answers are all there if you look between the lines, but there are reasons for it not to come over in the first book, because the genuine scenario, if you like, happens only in the second book when the revelations start to come out, and the revelations come out in not just one or two places, but they come out in several places. So the secrets that are being hidden in book 1 start to reveal themselves in book 2.
And also there's some hints as well, too, like with one of the officers picked up a glowing ember. It just got brighter and brighter, eventually made his car crash, blew up and everything else, and also took the lives of a couple of divers and everything. And of course, it also makes me think as well, too, that with Aphrodite just taking down ships and everything else, could it be like the enemy of one of the countries just like inflicting war on another country?
And if you want to take that as an analogy, it's not a bad analogy. You remember you have the scenario is the book is called Scylla or Scylla. She is the actual protagonist that actually is the one that's committing the crimes, if you like. And do you know what Scylla is? Do you know?
Scylla, I am trying to remember. It's a little bit in the morning for me, having coffee here as we speak. So, yeah. Well, I was going to add a little Keo to it. So, unfortunately, they don't have in the States. But I think I do remember
there were
about Scylla. It's just being with a beautiful face, but then you just have just like 12 arms, 6 legs, and ugly, disgusting body. It's like you probably say, take the face of, say, Marilyn Monroe, but then you just add it with bunch of octopus arms and maybe like the body of a football player. I mean, that's how I think of it.
Well, in many ways, you're not far off. The one thing that comes over as far as that particular character is concerned is that it's a cryptoid. Okay, so the cryptoid is the same sort of thing as like a sea monster. All right. Now, in this Greek mythology, there was a sister and there was a Scylla. I can't remember the sister's name, but they are on both sides of a rock, so that when the ships used to come through the middle, these two would be in that position where they could actually attack the sailors, and that's where you get between a rock and a hard place. So correct, that expression comes in. So you see the dilemma. Now in Greek mythology, these two sisters were the catalyst for a lot of sea disasters, including the voyage of Jason and the Argonauts. So the Argo, as such, was put into a situation where they would come across and maybe they could encounter the Scylla, but for one reason or another, it's not shown in the book. It's not shown in the film. They go to the different section in the actual mythology. One thing I will say with the actual Scylla itself, when I was looking for an image in Paphos, they have a wonderful mosaic area, and it belonged to. It's like a villa, like a Roman villa or Greek villa. I think it was originally a Roman villa. And it dates back to well before the 2nd or 3rd BC, for example. And there is this situation where all the murals are carved on the floor. And at the center of the murals on the floor is an image of the Scylla or Scylla. and that is there today. You can go and view it, etc. The Roman villa is an amazing villa in Paphos, very close to the harbour. So that gave me another sort of add-on, if you like. I've always been trying to get more reality into the stories, and that gave me another edge to the story by saying to people, go and see the mosaic, because it's there, because it's mentioned in the book as well. So.
Okay. And also, too, we'll talk about your little bit what's coming up in the third book and where you can get the book. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking for a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, and Apple. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device and subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. We're here with author Myron Edwards of Mistress of the Rock and Scylla, the Revenge. You can find that on Rockhill Publishing, also on Amazon.com. Worked in the travel industry for 30 years, and you also have a third book that's coming out. You'll need to give out numerous details, but looking forward to the third book, and this time it's involving a different person of significance. You can just tell us about that.
Yes. Well, whereas the first two books involve Richard, he's the main hero. His wife Julie plays a really a minor role, for example, in the books. Particularly in the second book, she doesn't have a very big part at all. If you were talking about a part in a movie, for example, but in the third book, she becomes the heroine, and that is called Odyssey. Odyssey, Julie's Return. The one thing that Julie Cole said that she would never go back to Cyprus, as what happened to her in the first book. But on the third book, I'm not going to give you the secrets or anything of the second book, or give you the reason why. Just the bottom line. Love to have you back on too. So just a little super. Okay. Well, the thing is that Julie is forced to return to Cyprus. When she goes back to Cyprus, she meets up with Peter, who is Richard's old army colleague. And together they form an alliance, but they form an alliance with somebody else who is rather special and who actually gives them the plan on how they can achieve what they need to. Let's put it that way.
Go ahead.
Okay. The thing is that in order to do this, she needs the help of the person that she does not want to see ever again, namely Aphrodite. So she has to work with Aphrodite, which goes against the grain completely. And in many ways, it's a battle between these two people, or one goddess, and one human, or one mortal. And that in itself is another edge to the story, because you have the two I'll call them people because it's easier. You have two people who hate each other the most, having to work together to achieve the aim that they need to, in order for one or both of them to be, shall we say, happier. Put it that way.
So it sounds like a whole frenemy situation where it's like, I hate to work with this person, but I have to. It sounds like a frenemy situation where it happens today, where it's like two enemies have to be friends, and then you also have two females going at in combat, taking on leadership roles. That sounds like today's society pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's probably hits the nail on the head. They're in a situation that is not of their own making. They're in a situation that they have very little to be able to stop themselves from not being able to. If they want to achieve the aims, they have to work together. That's it. Whoever comes out the winner, and that is what this is all about, will at the end of the day be the one that walks away with the prize. Let's put it that way.
Pretty much
talking about something without telling you exactly what it's all about.
No, we understand. I'd like to have you back on as long as you just send me a thing about the book as well too. And also you have Scylla in there, which is now Peter's ex. And does she happen to take part in this, or is she completely gone from the whole scene?
No, Sheila has disappeared. Sheila went off to Dubai, met a guy who works in the oil industry, or as Peter says, he's an oily person, but he's not necessarily in the oily industry.
Person or
an
grease
oily
monkey.
person. Yeah, greasy, shall we say?
Yes.
And I don't think everything works out too well for Sheila in the end, but that comes at a later stage anyway. So.
Mm-hmm. And of course, just a couple of things. Where can people purchase a book, and also where else can they also find your other works as well too?
Okay, well the main areas where you can get the book are from the websites. The website for mistressoftherock.com has a lot of different sites on there, Amazon, Goodreads, and various other places. I think there's a few US bookshops that are mentioned on there, but Rock Hill Publishing have all my various contacts, and so that's probably the best source for you. Scylla is a different address. It's skylarthebook.co.uk. Again, in the UK, you can get it from Hatchards. You can get it from UK bookstores. You can buy it online through Amazon, as you say, or you can buy it on amazon.co.uk if you're in the UK or Europe. Yeah, I mean, there are lots of places in which to get the book. It's available in 3 formats: ebook, paperback, and it's also available in a hardback. And here they are. So that's Mistress of the Rock. You can see.
You can point towards center. There you go. Okay.
Right, that's Mistress of the Rock. So look for that cover. Okay. And this is Scylla. All right. So look for that cover.
That is amazing, too. And also, what can we learn from Richard throughout the whole 2 stories?
Could you just repeat that, Mike? Sorry, I didn't catch it.
Okay, I'm sorry. It must have been the missuses going through your head in the books here. So what can you learn from Richard in the 2 stories?
What I think is that the guy suffers from PTSD, which unfortunately a lot of people also do as well. And that PTSD comes over in the form of the way that he purports that he thinks that what is happening around him is real. Only he sees what's happening. He then has to confide in other people in book 2 about what has happened to him. Peter, who is his cohort in the second book, basically says, I don't have any evidence that you're my friend. Okay, I'll go along with it. I'll see how far it goes, until Peter himself gets evidence that actually convinces him that what Richard has done and what Richard has seen is in fact real. And that in some ways is very much the tale of the story. It's how you convince somebody enough that what you believe is happening is really happening to other people as well, so that they start to believe it,
And of course, it's also a good lesson for those with PTSD or for those dealing with PTSD. Just pick up a book and just learn, about a person going through PTSD themselves, especially with the war as well, too. And of course, after reading the book, I still have these images of an Iraqi woman being blown up to bits. And of course, I'm not a person that likes to look at all the blood and gore. And I have to say this, in terms of aptitude, my score would be very low when it comes to medical or working in a hospital. So I said, thank God I work at a hospital.
Yeah. It's a situation that for a lot of people, unfortunately, they live it every day. PTSD is not something that goes away after a few minutes, and that's in many ways is what happens to Richard. 17 years later, when he comes back to Cyprus in the first book, in The Mistress, that is what he believes is the reason for all the visions that he has. That's what Julie believes is the reason for all the visions that he has. It's his PTSD come back to haunt him. Whereas in reality, as far as Richard is concerned, everything he sees is real. So when the second book comes out and he has confirmation that what he has seen and what he has experienced in PTSD was real and was something that he experienced in real life and brought through all of his time that he was 17 years later, keeping that in mind, it's still with him. In the second book, it comes out even further because he has to reveal to other people what he experienced as well.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like the challenges and the temptations get stronger and stronger and stronger by the minute. And of course, it's for those who are facing those challenges, that's something they can just learn off. It seems like the challenges get stronger and stronger and the forces get darker and darker. Yeah,
so I think that's very true. And unfortunately, how many people are there to help you? You need somebody in your corner, so to speak, who is going to help you, somebody who can understand what you've experienced, because I'm sure there are an awful lot of people that don't understand what it is, what PTSD was. In the old days, they used to call it shell shock, which was the first things that happened in the First World War. Well, now we dress it up and we call it PTSD, but it's still the same thing. It's what reaction you have to an event that basically is catastrophic and has affected your mentality and has affected your personality, and it's changed you. And in some ways, that's the catalyst for this whole story. This change that comes about in Richard, simply because he's looking for an escape route. Whatever escape route that comes to, is what he's trying to find. The obvious thing is it a dream or is it a reality? And Richard gradually realizes that it is a reality, as it is for many people with PTSD.
And of course, where can one get help as well, too?
Yes, exactly. Well, I'm sure that the people in the know would be the army and the people like that, or the armed forces. And I know that the UK have resources for that particular issue. I presume the US do as well. So it is something that in many ways highlights the wartime. It's not just all medals and glory and everything. It's what happens afterwards. The aftermath of a battle or whatever. There is one line that I came up with for the film that I thought of as like a strap line, and I just think it would be a good line to start any project with, in terms of the war is over, but for one man, his war is just beginning.
And that is so true. I mean, I deal with people with PTSD. There's others who deal with PTSD. And I've had some people on my show that struggle with PTSD and helping with those. And we encourage everybody, after watching this program, go to the Mike Wagner Show page and check out some people who have been through PTSD, and also look up on Google as well, too, PTSD, learn more about it. And, of course, we hope these books also encourage inspiration. And you said you're talking about having us as a film, too. So we're just checking last that you try to get a film going. It's stalled. And have you checked into it again if it's going to be back in the works again?
I'm trying, Mike. You had some film people on recently on your show. I'd really love to get in touch with some of those, because I think, and as it says on the website, some people have said, Myron, this just makes such a good movie. And I really would love somebody to come along and just say, yeah, I think you're right. It would make a good movie. And hopefully, these sort of broadcasts, these sort of getting the information out there, getting the message across, will help to do so. I think, purely from a point of view of it needs to have a wider audience than just the book from that point of view. Because there's more than one issue involved here. It's not just about it being a love story or an adventure, but there's also there's a substance to it as well, which I think it needs the people need to understand.
And that's something too. So for those filmmakers or anybody wanting to get some film ideas, you can reach out to Myron Editors. You give the information later as well too. And of course, we talked last that you worked with wrote for the Two Ronnies, Week Endings, and the new headlines for BBC. There was something that just came up most recently, and this was overlooked, that Monty Python celebrated its 50th anniversary. And when I saw that, I went, oh my goodness. And it just made me think that I think I probably need to reach you about that. I think it's just perfect timing about that. Right for the Two Ronnies, BBC, Monty Python, 50 years old to this day. Who would think that Monty Python would be around for 50 years or got started?
I tell you, my friend actually last week, he found a clip of mine on Tracy Ullman's A Kick Up the 80s. And it's a clip that's on YouTube, believe it or not. So he found it, and I didn't know I got a clip on the Tracy Ullman show. But I got a credit on it as well, which is quite funny, because she was an unknown then in those days. This was a show called A Kick Up the 80s, and she was really an unknown. She was only just starting to come into her own. And of course, she made it huge when she went to America. Just think of going back on that particular sketch where it's called The Lonely Castaways. It's on about the second sketch in this YouTube thing. So it was like a blast from the past seeing this again completely. But no, I mean, if you go to Python and you're talking about the geniuses that they were, and they were at their own time revolutionary. They came in at the time of when everything was revolutionary. They came in at the time of the Beatles and everything else like that. So there was everything that was built around them. Comedy was you'd gone from this kitchen sink comedy to something surreal by comparison with Monty Python. And it was a completely different scenario. These guys came from university backgrounds with Cambridge and mainly from Cambridge Footlights, and they were the beginning of the start of satire in some ways, and then satire itself started to take off with various other comedy companies, etc. And Week Endings was a very satirical program, but it was on radio. Never made it onto TV. But Python, did you know that Python's Life of Brian would never have got made had it not been for George Harrison?
I am not surprised. I remember watching that, and I thought to myself that They really stretched the boundaries. George Harrison, it's like, boy, that's a blast from the past right there, too. Just an influence on just about everything in the late 60s. Here he is, the Quiet Beatle. And it's also a little known fact, too, that his sister married an American and settled in a town called Centralia, Illinois. They put up a big sign that says George Harrison's sister lived there. So, yeah, George Harrison was a huge influence. And here I am, went to school at Scylla, Illinois. Everybody's like, did you know George Harrison's sister lived in Scylla, Illinois? I said, really? And there's a huge sign. So it's like, it was kind of like a tourist trap. But then you read the whole history about it. It's just funny. I think it was Centralia, Benton, or somewhere around there. What did it say at Scylla, Illinois? It's just like, it was just, I was just blown away by the whole thing.
Yeah, it's strange. They went to everywhere trying to get the Life of Brian made, and I think it was Bernard Delfont who was unable to, shall we say, give them the backing or the finance or even the support for them to make Life of Brian, because it was so sort of, shall we say, sacrilegious, from that perspective. And then they went and saw George Harrison, and George Harrison read the script and said, yeah, great, I'll give you the money to make the film. And they went to Tunisia and they made the film, and the rest is history.
Oh, my goodness. They probably had the same My Sweet Lord in order to get the money or something. So,
yeah, probably. I don't know. I think he was pretty well off anyway, so from that score. So, but... yeah, but the Python team were extraordinary. They had a reunion, I think, about 3 or 4 years ago, where they did a Python on stage in London.
I think, was it Spamalot or?
Yeah, Spamalot. There was Spamalot was one of them, but they also, I think, they did like a complete reunion of the Python crew. Of course, there was some sketches that they did, like the Dead Parrot sketch and that sort of thing. But it was a review more so than anything else. I don't think it was a particular show. But it was like the one and only last time Monty Python's going to get together finally.
Mm-hmm. That was amazing too. 50 years of it, and of course, you had the privilege of just being along those lines with the two Ronnies and watching it happen. Just amazing. Yes,
I was very fortunate in terms of being in the right place at the right time for some of them, and that was very good. The change in comedy now is completely different. There's so much PC that you can't do the things, and the shows that we watched in the 70s and 80s, they couldn't show now today because they're so controversial by comparison. Even sitcoms wouldn't get away with it. They just wouldn't get away with it. So you have to be very careful how you write these days.
And of course, if Monty Python tried to present themselves today, they probably have been banned instantly.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't. They wouldn't be allowed on the same sort of level as they were in the beginning, because they were innovators. Innovation in comedy. Some people said you had to have an IQ of 160 to understand some of their jokes. It was crazy because it was over the top in some cases. But then you have to understand that the difference was that these were record lawbreakers in as much as they were breaking the laws of comedy. The sort of sitcom situation was being kicked out of the window because of these people, and they were changing the face of comedy. They were bringing a different sort of look to the idea of humor, of what people found funny, and they were making people embarrassed in some cases because they shouldn't be laughing at it, but they were, and they were laughing at it. And in some ways that was another thing that they did. They changed people's perception.
That was amazing too, and maybe they can make Aphrodite and Scylla laugh. Let's try that next time.
Well, that would be fun. Yeah, it would be very good. I'd like to see John Cleese played Richard.
There you go. You know what? I think we have ourselves an idea for a movie. We'll talk about the third book and some of the adventures. Myron, just want to say a big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic and have a key on me. Looking forward to having you again soon. And once again, tell us about where can they find a book. Talk about your, just your upcoming project and your third book, and what's your website and how do people contact you?
Okay. Well, the first thing is the new book is going to be called Odyssey: Julie's Return. It should be out, I hope, in the next year. I'm not sure if it's coming out in the beginning of the year or in the middle of the year. That depends on the publisher, who is extremely busy at the moment. And my publisher is Rock Hill Publishing. You can get the book from James Hill, who is the publisher. You can also get the book from Amazon. You can get the book from, depending on where you are in the world, you can get the book from, let me think, Hatchards in the UK. You can get the book on. There's a big bookshop in America. I can't remember, Brooks or somebody.
Barnes and Noble.
Yeah, Barnes and Noble. That's the one. That's the one, Mark. You can get that from there. And generally, the book is available on the website. So if you go to the website, mistressoftherock.com, you'll be able to see the links and where you can buy the book. And the same for Scylla. Scylla is scylla.thebook.co.uk, and you'll be able to buy the book on there. I will say one thing. There is also, when we talked about the image on the Mistress of the Rock, remember I showed you the picture in the YouTube video?
Correct.
Mike?
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Have a look at the back of the book of the Scylla, because there's an image on there that might well surprise you.
We will do that. And Myron, just want to say a big thank you for your time. Looking forward to having you again soon. Do us a favor, keep us up to date, and looking forward to having you on, talk about the third book and maybe a film as well too.
Yeah, I hope so. Keep the film idea in mind. I'll be really pleased. All right. Take care, Mike. All the best. Enjoy the rest of the summer, what's left of it.
Thanks for listening to the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Listen online at themikewagnershow.com and on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And watch the interview on YouTube. Also, become a sponsor of the program and or donate today at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again tomorrow for another episode of The Mike Wagner Show.